You've passed step 1. You've put bum to chair. But now you need to pass step 2. You need to start the work. So you start, but to warm up and ease yourself in, you begin to highlight your legislation and your notes. Oh, now you're locked in. You're gliding through the session. It's lightweight, baby. You're flagging and highlighting like it's nobody's business. Now you've finally finished highlighting for this module. You look back at the clock, and 2 hours have passed. Now you have to go because you need to eat at the cafeteria, otherwise it'll close. Where did all that time go? Here is the tea for today. Time management. Yes, I am that guy. I love punny dad jokes. And Luke Tollman, third-year CA trainee at VAT IT and co-founder of Apti, will be sharing with us his past struggles with time management as a busy entrepreneur, but also as a student. We also chat about how to find passion in your studies and business, the power of romanticizing your work, choosing grit or growth in your articles, lessons from his business birthed by COVID-19, planting seeds despite failures, and of course, more. Enjoy. My travelers on the road to CASA. Quick one again. Hope you're having a fantastic week and that you're working hard. If you haven't already, go listen to the Super Hot Fire in part 1. It's linked in the show notes. In any case, on to part 2. Now that you're a founder and you've obviously been doing your articles as well, learning more about business, how has business changed you? Because I think on that point that I mentioned earlier about self-improvement, you've had to improve yourself and you've had to improve your business over time because now it's still surviving. In fact, it's thriving, it's growing. How has business changed you?
I think put simply, it's the realization of the importance of balance and time management. If anyone listening knows me, they'll know I'm incredibly terrible with time. It's my least. It's been on my improvement areas for the last 5 years. Getting into the space, the realization of how important allocation of time to the correct areas and maintaining a balance is just becomes astronomically clear. Things like going to gym, it sounds silly, but you can't perform in anything you do where one area is lacking. Making time for the relationships in your life that are important, making time for yourself, making time for the right areas of your business and prioritizing correctly. Alex Hormozy uses the term the lady in the red dress. She catches me all the time. And whether it's a good-looking homepage of the website or just something that's actually more fun to do than important to do, I think as you grow and mature, you realize that prioritization and time management is possibly the 2 biggest keys to success.
Focusing on what's important, not fun.
Exactly.
That's a huge thing because I think even with us, you can, in terms of these 4 modules, you've got your tax, you've got your auditing, you've got your financial accounting, you've got your financial management. You might love financial management. So that's why you do so many questions. That's why you do the pre-reading. But you don't need to do more. Maybe you need to go back to tax because tax is lacking or auditing is lacking, Yeah. Do more what's important than what's fun.
Even to take it, I think that's a good over prioritization. For me, I'd over highlight. I'd care too much how my notes looked. It's the not even important stuff that I think catches you. Where me and Nick had a conversation a while back where he's like, Brute, do you have your illustrative examples IFRS? And I was like, what's that? Looked me dead in the eyes. He's like, you got to be joking. How do you not know what that is? I'm like, I don't know. And I realized now going back to varsity, I was too busy worried about the non-important stuff. Is my act beautifully flagged in the most possibly efficient way? Did I highlight it with a crazy complicated strategy? Did it kind of get me through? It kind of did. But could I have done it quicker and easier? I think so. And I think if I had that kind of hindsight of how to prioritize and time manage a bit better, it would have been a quicker, easier journey.
I feel like there are skeleton activities. And what I mean by skeleton is the stuff that keeps everything together. There's skeleton activities, which is, do you manage your time well? do you get down to the important things like reading before the lecture? Do you do questions? These are skeleton activities that if you're not doing, I feel like you're not doing anything. You know, and I think as you said, the woman in the red dress is so seductive because it's nice not to do anything important.
Highlighting's fun.
It's nice.
It's so fun. You got 10 different colors, and I think to completely shift things, I realize now you kind of sparked a memory in me that actually goes back to this day of when I was highlighting in it and it came through. I was reading the Steve Jobs book, and I
still need to read that.
You'll love it.
You'll
love
yeah.
it. It was one of my Audible credits. Sorry, I was listening to the Steve Jobs. And I think there was a quote that had been kind of my motto till that point. Find a problem you want to solve and start a business around it. Adages all this time. What I didn't know is that I didn't actually know the full quote. And it was at a kind of pivotal time during varsity and a pivotal time during Unlock at the time that the second half of the quote became apparent to me. Find a problem you want to solve and build a business around it, but make sure you're passionate about that problem or else you won't see it through. And I think with me in accounting, I could just see deferred tax became so hard to figure out because I just wasn't passionate about it. It wasn't something that like would wake me up in the night and I would want to pull out my act and figure out how it would happen with a property that's depreciating this way. It just wasn't me. And I think what's now been so clear and differential with Apti is that I'm so passionate about people of talent going into the right roles. And the fact that one shouldn't be wasting their talent and seeing what is a period of growth and learning as a burden. And I think that's what's been the big kind of catalyst to actually getting us this far and keeping that hunger alive to solve the problem.
Yeah, that's huge, man. Like, I think that's also a very fundamental mind shift in the course. Sort of, I think everything we do can be applied to our passions. That's the nice thing about finance and business. Like, no matter what, there's. I think business, and I think I'm paraphrasing, or maybe I'm even. I'll coin this one. Business is the game that everybody's in that no one knows. Everyone is in the game of business, but like people just don't know. Non-profit, that's business. No matter what you are doing, you're in the game of business. You're in the game of taking inputs, the 6 capitals that we learn, financial, intellectual, social and relational, human capital, manufactured capital, and natural capital.
Okay, thank God you didn't ask me. I was running after the first 2. I was like, I'm out. I can't remember.
We take those, we convert them, we put them through our whole operation, and we create value. Everyone's in the business, whether you're an employee, whether you're an entrepreneur, everyone's in the game of business. And we all need to understand where we fit in that game. And when you understand where you fit and you understand the passions that drive you to that space, I think we can apply deferred tax to anything we do. We can actually apply all of these things to our passions. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I think that process of romanticizing your work to yourself was
that's a great way to put it.
Was, to be honest, the only reason I got through. You when you're sitting there with your act and you know you're not passionate about what you're doing, find ways to romanticize it to yourself. This is such an important thing that's going to be such a big issue for my business one day. I have to fundamentally understand this. Okay, let's turn the next page in there for us. Let's keep going. Where I think people get it wrong is I don't even want to do this one day. So it's like, let me just like pass this test. And when you don't kind of create that why behind what you're doing, it's just so much harder to kind of trudge through.
It's hard. It makes it way harder. Sure. And it even gets me thinking about one of the principles of how to influence and influence people, which was dramatize your ideas. So if you want to like even become a ethical influencer. Dramatizing ideas, what I've realized is the power of dramatizing ideas added to the way that you can, not just trudge through, but actually get through. I think it's also the people around you. It's like a fire. That's what dramatizing the ideas does, and it makes ideas real for you. It makes it real for you, because when you're deferred tax is hard, man. But when you're
I don't know why we keep coming back to this one. I really have an issue with it.
but like when you're, but the thing about deferred tax is it's really hard to make it real. It's really hard. Like it's such a conceptual.
Timelines involved, tax involved. That's already hard enough.
But like, just think about like where do you like, can you touch something and see deferred tax? It's hard to conceptualize, but dramatizing the idea, it makes it real for you, and it gets into idea that I'm a speech coach at Crawford, Pretoria, and I've been trying to teach the kids of how to make the idea yours, because that's how you are able to transfer it to others. Because when it's not yours, it's just words.
Absolutely.
That's memorization, just regurgitation.
Yeah. And you can't add your kind of flair and your like natural personality to something.
Yes.
And it probably comes through in your answers. I mean, I don't know how much personality you need in a deferred tax calc, but when it comes to things like the more long form qualitative responses, and I think getting to your APC right at the end of your CA journey, that's where it starts to come through. And I think it's at the most important time that these principles that should have been stacking up over the year need to come through for you. If you haven't internalized the information and actually made it true to you, when it comes time to write a review of an entity's performance evaluation system, your answer will be a bit vanilla. It's not going to seem like a CA business leader who's competent, who's been thinking about these things for the 6 years to that point. It's you've been thinking about it for the 2 days since you've had your pre-release. Disingenuous. It lacks depth. Start early.
Yeah. People are paying you for those 7 years thinking. You better have been thinking in those 7 years.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And grinding.
Yeah. Grinding, thinking, obviously doing, because I think
lots of doing, yeah.
Lots of doing. It's easy to just dwell in the theory. It's easy. Even to just dwell in the academic side. Like, we take it for granted. Like, I remember I saw in the learning outcomes for one of the modules, I forgot which one, but I remember them saying, after this, module or particular topic we were doing, the candidate must be able to verbally and in a written way communicate their ideas. I'm like, whoa. Let's just quickly zone into that, because there's a lot of words on these pages. Verbally communicate. When do we explain deferred tax? When do we sit and when are we assessed on how we can actually verbally explain it to a client? Can we?
Most people not. I couldn't, and I think that's
I got to myself.
I think that maybe kind of what's actually nice about the CA profession is that there's actually roles available for everyone. Deferred tax doesn't have to be a thing. It wasn't mine, and I think that makes you no less of a CA.
Yeah,
it's just an aspect.
Yeah,
I look at Nick, and he's possibly the greatest kind of opposite to me in that he loves deferred tax. Got it straight away. It was never even hard for him. Was something that conceptually was quite fun. It was a bit of a challenge. Like, actually enjoyed it.
It's hectic.
Where for me, the more managerial accounting, valuations, that stuff was like so interesting. Like, couldn't get enough of it. And I think in your articles journey, the more me and Nick kind of learn about the different roles and the different firms and the different journeys, we come to realize that with 600 possible options, there really is no reason you shouldn't be actually getting the role that's right for yourself. And the problem then comes in where there's a lack of education on what's really available and a time burden on investigating all of those options till you get the one that's actually right for you. And I think that at our core is like the problem we're trying to solve. It's Alonga asked me before this what the business we are in is in. I thought it was recruitment operations business, but it's actually just an educational business. And how we go about doing that education is, I think, what makes us unique. It's using these assessments, it's building these pages out, conveying the message in an efficient manner that allows you to say, I'm going to look at all 600, but quickly, and get in depth with just the ones that are actually suited to you.
Sure. An education business. You didn't even tell me education business. I think building out the content of Apti, that's interesting.
Yeah. I thought it was sales and marketing, wrong.
Yeah. It's actually content. Because now the way that students are, because I think Apti in itself is just, like, I don't see how any student isn't using it, because it's just finding the right fit is what you have to do it. You have to do it if you want to thrive through these articles. Finding the right fit, it's do or die. Like, really, you're going to live these 3 years. You don't want to
Survive.
You want to live these 3 years. You don't want to survive.
Or I'll even challenge you to go further, grow. I think you mentioned the point earlier of skill stacking.
Yes.
When you try to just survive your articles, what you basically admitting to yourself is that in these 3 years, I'm going to learn nothing. I'm going to survive. I'm going to hate it, but I'm going to get signed off, and I'm going to get a name on my CV potentially. It doesn't have to be that. It really does not. I think, fortunately for me, I stumbled into the perfect articles role for my career and where I wanted to go. And it came through a lucky LinkedIn message from a guy who still works at VAT IT. We joke about it all the time. He says I owe him a life debt. I kind of do. And it's so funny. He is the same guy who actually brought Nick in. So he says we owe him 2 life debts and shares. The shares aren't happening. But I think where I've seen so many of my friends kind of get into a really kind of dark place of being depressed and just really not coping is that 3 years of surviving is tough. Where we romanticize things to ourselves, it becomes very hard where you haven't bought into what you're doing there and you haven't really thought through your decision of, am I actually happy to go there? Do I actually want to spend 3 years at this firm I know nothing about till you arrive? And I think that's where, people go wrong. And I think it's such a pity. It feels like you letting yourself down and you're letting your future self down by not actually being open to the full kind of opportunities available and really giving them some proper thought.
Yeah. I start to think about how, so I forgot who it was, but they were thinking, oh no, I'm signed to X place. And they were just like, it's okay, I'll get through, I'll see you when I'm done with my articles. Yeah, I'll just trudge through. I think it was someone who was past the articles. Yeah, dude, you're in for a tough one, eh? You just gotta bite the bullet, just get through it. And I'm like, really? It's about grit? No, this should be about growth. So you're really choosing grit or growth when you are at this place where now there's an Apti that can align you, because it's not. I don't think with Apti it's not a tough choice. You've been teasing at this. You started a business, was it 2020? 2021. During COVID, you started a business called Unlocked.
What a tough time, man.
Unlocked Tutors. Let's walk through firstly your journey there, and then I'm gonna ask you a little bit about what you learned. But let's walk through that.
Journey there, well, I think kind of all can relate to the feeling of being at varsity one day or at school or at work, and the next day being locked in your house, global, national, lockdown. What a strange time. I was thinking about it just the other day where that concept new normal came to mind. It was like how wild that we've made it through to a new normal where sometimes people will wear masks to the shops. And COVID's gone, but that stayed. And I think at the time we were in the midst of about to go into exams. I was in my 3rd year of studies, literally for the 4th time struggling with deferred tax, and got pulled home and was sitting there, and I think fortunately academics has always been something I've been quite passionate about, and started getting reached out to quite frequently from friends in my year and younger years going, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? What started to happen is just getting overly inundated with requests, and thought, let me try and make a booking system. Not hard. Logged onto Wix, as everyone does, and created a free website. From there, just set up a simple scheduling tool and tried to monetize it. Fortunately, at the time, staying just 2-3 houses down the road in the estate I stay in was my then business partner Elijah, who worked at Wix at the time. The conversation was,
Sure.
Lige, I don't know how Wix works. Can you come and just give me a tour?
Sure.
Sure. And he goes, Brooke, do you want some help on this project? I was like, yeah, I'd love that. And what then kind of pursued was us sitting for 10, 11 hours a day, every day during the lockdown, having coffees, having beers, just really making it this passion project. Lockdown ended, and Unlock was in a position where students were actually benefiting from it enough for us to say, let's keep it going. And we try to then grow outside of just accounting and outside of just Stellies to UCT to Wits. We did a few insane partnerships, nearly kind of really taking it to the next level, and just got unfortunately hit with some bad timing where Lige moved back to Israel and I had to start articles.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the death of Unlock.
That was the death of it,
Yeah.
which I think for a while I was quite ashamed of. I think I saw it as a business failure. But I think in the entrepreneurial journey of things, what I'm now realizing is that it was the furthest thing from that. It was the first time I learned that it's just about starting. And starting is the hardest part.
Yeah.
Once you actually just get going, you learn the lessons of how to register a company, how to set up your books, set up your systems, how to actually get a front end going, how to make sales, how to grow the sales. And that just carries with you. And what I think the entrepreneurial journey is all about is growing you, not the business. The business ends, but you continue.
Sure. It wasn't a business failure, it was a business lesson.
That's it.
And so Unlock was basically connecting tutors to students,
Correct.
basically.
Yeah, we wanted to make it a platform. I think it's the same mentality that's come through into Apti. It's basically a sorting hats of sort. Think of it like a Harry Potter, which house are you going into kind of equation. And with Unlock, what we really strive to do is just connect with you with a tutor that wasn't per se just an expert in the field, but someone that you'd actually want to spend time with. Like where you develop a relationship where you can WhatsApp, chat, kind of actually get close with them enough so that it supersedes the subject you're working on. They can help you romanticize it.
I love this idea of romanticizing the learning, romanticizing the subject, because it's the only thing. It's one of the things that make it real, that make study real. Because I think it's easy for study to be this thing as so you have the thinkers and the doers. Both people are needed in society. We both need thinkers and we both need doers. And we also, the golden medium is the people who think and do, which are the people that kind of run stuff. But the doers will always sort of demonize thinking. All you do is think all day. And the thinkers will be like, this person, they don't think, they're stupid. But I think both sides are needed. So the doers need to understand that you do actually need to do the pre-reading, Chief. It's not just about questions. You actually need to do the pre-reading. But then also the thinkers must also know that it's about the questions as well. I think that's the golden median. As much as I would say questions first, I'd say rather do more questions and less reading, I would say. But I actually wanted to get into this on Unlock. What are the lessons that have transferred into Apti?
Hundreds. And
Yeah.
I think great point. And I think to what you're saying, it's so interesting. Like just last week, one of the guys I work with, Dan Martin, gave me this book, E-Myth Revisited,
Oh, the
And
business one.
The business one.
Yeah.
And it was, the topic actually was why most small businesses fail. That was the kind of cover. And the lesson, the main takeaway I took from that is that within you is the doer, the thinker, and the entrepreneur.
Oh.
And you as a person need to kind of segment yourself into all three. And I think coming back to that point earlier of like prioritization and time management, you've got to let the thinker shine at some points. Let the doer shine at some points, and let the entrepreneur kind of supersede and guide the other two. So in terms of what I learned there, it was the lesson I kind of just mentioned briefly earlier, is focusing on the business behind the business. For Unlock, it was never about the money. I think we openly said that right from the get-go. It was a passion project. It was about giving back. We set up initiatives to give lessons away for free. We paid our tutors way too much, and we were so happy to. Where that came to is eventually getting to a point where we wanted to keep it going and we wanted to build a career off that, but both of us want to be family men. We want kids. We want to kind of be able to be supporting of that. You can't do that when you're not being realistic with what you're trying to grow.
Yeah.
And I think that naivety of, well, I don't care about the money, it's just about the passion, it's about helping, it limits you. So I think that was the biggest lesson I learned. I think the second biggest lesson I learned is that work on your business, not in your business.
Ooh, yeah.
So with us, I was probably our biggest tutor. I was doing lessons at 2 in the morning, like really, like whenever I could, I was just involved. And what then happened is I wasn't looking at the systems. I wasn't looking at kind of driving new areas for growth. I should have stepped out sooner. And I think that lesson's come through into Apti already. The way we're building our system is to welcome on new team members into key roles that we really thought through and built out, to build our systems to be intelligent and efficient, to actually make it a business. I think you used the term with the 6 capitals of these capitals go in and something come out. That kind of concept of a black box is something me and Nick talk about, argue about, try and build upon daily. It's what is our black box? What is our route to revenue? What is our route to student placement and happiness? Those are the discussions we're now having. And I think that came from the lessons that were portrayed upon me by the failings of me being in the business. And I think it takes a lot to admit those kind of things. I think you'll get to a point where you look yourself in the mirror and you actually go, I actually let people down by not being better sooner.
Yeah. Oof.
But let me be better now.
Yeah. Sure. That's profound, man. And I even think about an initiative that I wanted to start. I wanted to start up a Toastmasters club. So it's basically a public speaking club at UP, at the University of Pretoria. And like the whole of last year when I wanted to drop out and stuff, I was really trying to get this thing started. And so I was trying to do meetings, trying to get people around. Eventually it just didn't materialize because of me not wanting it enough, to be honest. I just didn't want to. I wasn't willing to sacrifice what it really took, because business is sacrifice. Sacrificing time, you're going to sacrifice energy, you're going to sacrifice time with family, like things like those. You are going to sacrifice some of them. And when your why is not deep enough, you're not going to sacrifice.
Absolutely.
You're not going to sacrifice. So for me, also, it felt like a failure that I couldn't start this club for all these people that had come through, that were looking into professional development. And I think you feel like that, but when you look on the bright side, the number of people you already impacted, I think that's also something that should give you a little bit of ease over the experience, because I think as much as it quote unquote failed, there were seeds planted. Like, you probably provided so much opportunity for connection during COVID, dude.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
It's
Lunga.
huge.
I had a feeling of the seed kind of growing into a fruit just this last week, where one of the guys I tutored, probably the guy I tutored the most, who was racking about 15% average when we first started.
Yeah.
I won't say his name because he'll kill me, but really, like, just on the brink of giving up, to be frank. reached out to me to say, listen, Luke, I'm now in PGDA. I want to look for articles. I see you doing this now.
Wow.
Can you help us? And actually landed him the most exciting role. And it's just this feeling of kind of full circle. And what you're saying, it's exactly that. It's the seed of hard work in the past actually coming back to say, I still remember what you did for me. You got me through at a time where I didn't think I would get through. Can you help me again? And hopefully that makes you likable or useful or valuable. But I think for me, it just makes me feel like I'm a decent person and that I'm helping, which is, I think, what we all want in life.
Yeah. I think it's a human need. The feeling that you're helping, the feeling that you're useful. I think that's a genuine human need. Just like, hunger, other stuff, love. Those things are human needs. I think also the feeling that you're valuable.
Yeah.
Is like
and a part of something bigger.
I think that's connected. I think that's connected. On the networking thing, I think definitely being valuable is part of that. Yeah, being part of something bigger. Yeah, that's also a human need.
I think that for me is my lady in the red dress summed up. It's I often get caught up thinking, well, how can I make this 20x, 200x, 2000x, where sometimes you just need to focus on what is the next 2 steps. And I think especially at studying level, I was, okay, cool, I'm going to build this study tracker and it's going to have daily tasks and I'm going to do it on Notion and I'm going to tick it off. And not even important, I had the question pack there. I should have just got started. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right there with kind of not letting the distractions catch you and pull you in. Just remembering what is the next most important thing to do.
Power of a seed. I think I want to go into this idea a little bit more. Like, it's profound, the power of a seed, and I think we understate its power. Like the seed of the book that you read back in first year. Like, I mean, that's Steve Jobs' book. When did you find out the full quote?
This is going to expose me terribly, but I decided to go for a 40K walk the day before my final exam of third year. And
Perfect time to walk.
No, perfect time. I don't know what came. I've never done anything like this in my life. And I was at the time studying in Stellenbosch and decided I've never done Kutzenberg. I'm going to go and take a kind of mental clearing walk and just finish up my book. Bear in mind, I was about halfway through. So I go on this walk and within 3 minutes of the walk, the full quote drops. Inspiration strikes, close the book and just let the thoughts kind of run wild. It was honestly, speaking of it now, is one of the best days of my life, and somehow managed to actually get me in the right place to approach my test. And I think it just let me approach it with an open mind. But what that quote did for me in the long term was exactly what you were saying about your Toastmasters on Gits. Don't do something where your why is not enough to see it through, because in essence, you'll just let yourself down and you'll let the people who come along for part of the ride down. If you're going to do something, make sure you've got the passion to see the whole thing through, which was, what that quote has done for me, immense, like really and truly immense.
And like, it's funny, you have to read 100 bad books before you get one good book.
Or listen to them.
The thing is, like, there's actually nothing wrong with listening to a book.
I love it. Audible's great.
I love it too.
If you haven't listened to Audible, use Luke 12.
It's affiliate link. No, like listening to. Here's the thing about listening versus reading, though, that I'm realizing. So like a podcast, you'll do it in the background. You'll listen to the podcast in the background. You'll maybe while you're busy cooking, you're listening to a podcast. While you're driving, you listen to a podcast. What I found is the value of it is not necessarily that you're consciously going to retain information, because sometimes like you listen to the podcast and you forget it after a week. It might seem not valuable, but what it really helps with is the unconscious. It helps with your subconscious. It helps with like the belief that you can. So let's say you're listening to a business podcast. What it helps with is you have now a belief that you can get into business. And that's why I think even listening, even if you don't take notes, I think notes are great. And that's where you can now crystallize the ideas and really take advantage of the nitty-gritty value. But even just listening to like this, like a podcast like this, where you're hearing all these stories, it's going to help you with your unconscious mind realize that it's possible to thrive in your articles. It's possible to thrive in your studies. It's possible to feel like you're pursuing purpose every day, to romanticize the things you do.
Absolutely. And I think that's what you do so great, Lunga. I've never once listened to your podcast and not known the 5 key takeaways that I'm going to implement. And I think that is a big differentiator. Alex Formosi is the only other person I know that's actually got that right. And I think, like what you're doing for students, giving them that framing of how to approach questions, how to approach life, how to approach their journey to CA is so valuable. And you're helping them build that belief in themselves. So, yeah, honored to be here. Really, truly.
Thank you, man. Thank you, man. So now, Apti. What is it? What do you do? And how can students use it?
Thanks.
To be continued in part 3. See you next week.